This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host. It is my pleasure to welcome a guest that I've been wanting to have on this podcast for a very long time, and we finally were able to make it happen and make sure that our schedules worked together. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome the co-founder and CEO of YOTPO, TOMER TAGRIN. Welcome, TOMER.
We're very happy to be here and a big fan of what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You were so complimentary before we started recording about my content. And I, as somebody who has been in this industry as long as you have and has had such a massive impact on my life, our industry as a whole, I always appreciate time. Anytime I get appreciation from people that I respect in the community, then it means a tremendous amount to me. So thank you
man.
so much.
Thank you.
Now, look, we're gonna talk all about YOTPO, but before we get into that and how this kind of happened, how did you even get to be in this industry in the first place? Because if we go back to pre-YOTPO days, you're a hardcore engineer. You were a chip design developer at Intel. You've been in the more what I would call the hardcore side of this industry, but I know a little bit about the story of YOTPO. I've heard the story of how it came to be, and that especially when it comes to reviews, authenticity, UGC, etc., you had a difficult situation where you purchased a camera online based on some misleading reviews, and that was the inspiration for how YOTPO came to be initially. But how did you go from being this chip designer to founding YOTPO? That doesn't seem like a direct, straight line path.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. So first, I'll say I'm coming from a home that my mother was an entrepreneur in the insurance space. So I grew up that entrepreneurship was very present in our house. And when during school, actually, I also had I brought like a game from China and sold it through like chaos around Israel. It was a complete failure, but probably the best business school and sales school I ever been to. Because we had like a strike in university and I had some spare time. One of my friends just came back with a super cool game. So I founded it was pre the days that everything was very easy to do drop shipping. It was actually not. So I made my house like a warehouse. I did all the branding, everything, and start sending it like chaos by chaos and pitching different owner. And I think that got me to a sense that I love the entrepreneurship in a way. I love where you get an idea and how you can change something. Definitely when technology is involved, it's very much in my passion. My engineering passion is there, like product and business. I really love that. And I think what happened, I was in Intel, and in Intel, I don't know how it is today actually, but back in the day, every chip is like a 4-year cycle. So let's say you write the code, you need to test it, you see the test like 2 months after. So the pace wasn't for me. A great place, by the way, I had like a great boss, a great team, but I just felt the pace wasn't for me. And I met in university my co-founder, Omri, and I think he also came from a house of entrepreneurship, his father. And both of us knew we wanted to do something, but we just didn't know what. And then, exactly like you said, like it was the case that I bought, sorry for the French, but a crappy camera based on the misleading or fake reviews. And we said, okay, let's fix that. And actually, not a lot of people know, but our original idea was we actually built a search engine that ranks reviews based on certain elements. But the problem was we didn't know who wrote the reviews was actually a buyer or not. So the entire thinking process was, let's build YOTPO to generate reviews. So I'll know who bought the product or not to inject it back to the search engine. And I remember we were working on that. And then I called my co-founder. He was back then on honeymoon in India. And I told him, look, man, I think the search engine thing won't work. No one wants like a search engine for reviews. I don't even use it. I think it sucks. We need to see what we're doing. maybe let's go to the B2B route. And when he came back, we decided to go all in on B2B. And there was, so we built something. And back then, both two engineers from Israel didn't know anything about commerce, anything about SaaS. And so we started integrating with a few platforms. One of the platforms, the best APIs we saw was from a company called Shopify, and built there, and with a few other European actually platforms. And many brands on Shopify installed us, but zero reviews. So another
Wow.
week passes by, zero reviews. More installs, zero reviews. More installs, zero reviews. And then after a month or a few months maybe, there was one brand called the Loop Loft, which started doing like 20, 30, 50 reviews a week. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I pick up the phone, I called the guy, his name is Ryan. He sold the company since then, by the way. I told Ryan, what are you doing? Like, how are you generating reviews? What's happening here? And then he told me, look, after someone purchased, I send them an email asking for a review. And I said, oh, that's cool. So we added that capability to send an email, but we said, okay, let's innovate on that. And instead of having an email that you need to click on a link that moves you to a landing page to write reviews, we developed like what's called email review, that you can give the review inside the email, actually. And then I know the authenticity as well, because I know from which email client you wrote it. So we added a badge of like verified buyer. That was one of our inventions in the space. And that really took off. And then what happened is like social became a thing. So we said, okay, all of those small merchants, how you increase like trust. So let's get the reviews out into social. And from there, we really took off. But that was like I want to say the beginning of everything. Also, I'll tell you another good story before we move on. Before we moved to the B2B, when we were still in the search engine, you need to download the reviews. Anyway, you need to scrape the reviews, right? And so we scraped everyone's. We built like scrapers, Best Buy, Walmart, you name it. And then we came to the behemoth called Amazon. So at the beginning, they blocked us. But then we found ways to unblock the block. And I remember, let's say, scraping all of, let's say, Walmart reviews took us, let's say, a day. Amazon, after a month, the scrapers didn't stop. The amount of content that they have, and then we understood that how important it is both for sellers and Amazon, the importance of it, like how much content it, how much value it brings from SEO, conversion rate, all of that. So we decided to invest much more in like just the content generation. And I remember also we did like another funny thing back in the days. I don't know if they still have it. Both Amazon, Best Buy, I think, and Walmart had a leaderboard of top reviewers.
Yes.
So what I did to understand like why people write reviews, how we can incentivize them, I wanted to interview them. But the problem was in the leaderboard, the name were like Jason the Great 25. So we built a script that matched those names to Twitter handlers. And I used to like ping them on Twitter, got some matches, and then we matched that with Skype handlers. And I texted them on Skype, and I interviewed 200 reviewers of the top reviewers. Insane conversations. Insane. You get people that are writing like 500 reviews a year. And you ask them like, why? And then you understand that these people are very different from anyone. They write reviews because they get the kicks of writing reviews.
Yes. Yes. They get the kick of having their name up in the, and the public adoration for writing these reviews and the responses to the reviews, etc. And the brands reaching out to them and wanting to work with them and so many other things. They get the thrill. It's like a rush to be able to write the review that gets the most viewership. What a fascinating start to this whole thing. And I remember, because I've been doing e-com for 25 years, and I remember back in the day that YOTPO was pretty much, other than some platforms had some default reviews capabilities built in, even for those platforms, YOTPO was, it pretty rapidly became the default plugin, so to speak, for almost all platforms. Now, it wasn't just Shopify, it was Woo, it was Magento, it was
Yes.
it was so many other platforms, and obviously many other ratings and reviews platforms have come along since then, but certainly in the beginning, you guys had such a chokehold on that element of the UGC market that it felt like your name was synonymous with the reviews space and with the
Yes, I think it
trust
was like
building
Observers
space.
and Power Reviews and
Yes,
Trustpilot, those
yes,
three. But what we brought, I think, better tech in a much better price. And then we did the mistake of going up market and we left the room for many other players to do like good enough tech, but much better pricing. So you
yes.
saw like the many other competitors coming since then. But I think definitely we really took off because we were very focused on increasing the number of platform we integrate with
Yes.
and the number of merchants. And there was a time we were free. That time we were like super cheap. So we just got like really quick. I want to say spread out there. I think there was a time, I don't remember the year. I remember that some of our engineers, Yelp issued like the number of reviews they do like on a monthly basis. And I remember us surpassing Yelp. And we completely celebrated in the office. We were probably like 15, 20 people back then. It was like a big evening for us.
Wow, that's very exciting. I do remember all of these milestones, and you guys were always, what I find super interesting is that many software leaders in the software space, they don't, they're oftentimes they're not very comfortable being public facing. Now, obviously, if you're Steve Jobs, you're fine with it. If you're somebody famous that likes the limelight, that's great.
Yes.
But the vast majority of engineering led software leaders, they oftentimes don't actually like being in the limelight, but it's so difficult, I think, especially now, but even back then, I think it's really difficult if you're not your own biggest cheerleader and if you're not out there flying your flag, if you are not out there leading the marketing effort of your own product. I look at order editing and I look what those guys have done, and all the way from New Zealand, where I lived for 28 years in New Zealand. I'm actually a dual citizen with New Zealand and the US. And what these guys have done is all founder led. I
Took me many
think,
years to learn that lesson. I
well,
wasn't
it
more
seems
than
like you've
young.
learned it damn well, because I tell you, the amount of visibility that you have in the market is
Thank you.
massively admirable. And I actually use you for some of the platform vendors that I consult to. I
Thank you.
use you and Hamish and just a small handful of others. It's no more than 5 of you guys out there really being as visible as you are. And you are what I call the prototypical perfect founder, in the sense that you're an evangelist for your own platform. And I think it's really difficult, especially as of 2025. I think it's really hard
Yeah, I
if the
completely agree
founder
that founder
the
led.
founder wants to be anonymous. It's hard.
Yes, I completely agree. So I'll tell you, like, I had a few epiphanies, a few tough lessons there. It didn't come natural because for me, like, social is not my natural thing. I'm not an introvert, but I don't like being out there. And I'm like, only in YOTPO, like, I feel it's like my tribe. So at YOTPO, I'm very much like an extrovert. But then in the beginning, it took me time to understand that commerce is a very, like, social is a thing, is a platform. LinkedIn and Twitter are places that a share of mind, even purchase decision from time to time are actually happening. And there was a time that Yelp was slammed on social. We were one of the most hated brands on social. Most of it rightfully, by the way. And I think once I decided to start like a new journey, what Eli Waits called like YOTPO 2.0, that he was one of our evangelists internally to start, I understood that like we need to become great at social. Why? Because we are so bad at social. And this will show that, and I need to lead it. And I need to own it. And I started piece by piece. I remember at the beginning, like I really didn't know what would be the reactions. But I think what we decided to be is to be uber authentic. Because
Yes.
anyone that got to know Yotpo and Yotpo people got, wow, you're so different from your brand on social. And
Yes.
then I understood there's like a big potential to bring who we really are into social, who I am. And I think, I don't know, you can see it's never mind, but we are very tech people, down to earth, very authentic, and non apologetic. And we do mistakes, we try to fix them quickly. We live like life in its fullness. We love supporting brands. We think e-commerce is freaking awesome. We think being an executive in commerce, it's like super hard, and we really want to help. And I think that's where I found my voice and being very authentic. I think it's like culture. Many brands or many founders saw like the Facebook culture, right? Break things and move fast. And that's for me so unauthentic, which I can't do that at YOTPO. Like it will never be, because that's not who we are. It worked for Facebook. There was actually one of our investors. He has like a great sentence that he says, be the best avocado tree you can. What does that mean? It means you go and see like that company, they grew that, they raised that, they did that, blah, the founder did that, never mind. And you try to do the same. But they're a banana tree. They're like a different market, different product, different timing, different culture. And you cannot be the banana tree. The only thing you can do is be the best avocado tree you can. So we try to be the best avocado tree we can.
I love that story. And it's so interesting because I think what I have seen, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but having founders be much more visible in the marketplace, it doesn't just create trust, it doesn't just maybe create more business. What it does is I find it closes the loop faster on customer feedback. If
Look
you're
at
having a
Elon Musk.
problem, I mean,
Elon Musk is the best
exactly.
example in the world. Yes,
I mean, he's getting instant feedback 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on X. And I've even seen it in your content where somebody will maybe make a complaint and say, you'll respond within minutes in some cases. Hey, you're right. We do have a problem with this. We're working on it. It's being fixed. Or, hey, I'm going to have X reach out to you and we're going to get this resolved for you or whatever. I just think that feedback loop becomes so much faster and you build up so much more momentum
So I'll
when
tell
the
you another
lead.
good story that no one knows. In the beginning, when
Okay.
you thought we took off, we didn't have support people. I was our head of support. And we
Yes.
used to have phone support. I wanted phone support. So it was a number that led to my cell phone. And
Yes.
and my wife used to make fun that even in our honeymoon, someone we used to call, I used to start in the middle of the night. My eyes were closed with saying, Yotpo support, how can I help you? And then he would say, I have a problem with Magento integration. I could activate the problem while literally almost sleeping. And I would email and text the engineers like, we need to fix it quickly.
Yes.
So I really think customer feedback and unfortunately, I think I need to do even a better job at that. Getting that feedback much, much faster, creates a lot of accountability with product engineering service people, and B, give me the right context and what people care about, what's working, what's not working. Because as you scale, it's becoming harder.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I was the same when I had my pure play e-commerce business. My business partner and I, we had a dedicated cell phone that was dedicated to the business line.
And make
And
it smarter, yes.
we would take turns. 1 week I would take the phone, 1 week he would take the phone. And apart from very rare occasions when maybe we were in the shower or something like that and we couldn't answer the phone, we were available 24/7. And
I like
it's 100% agree with you. There is something about being and staying that close to the customer that really makes a difference. Like
yes.
it's too easy to put in that abstraction layer of customer service or customer support or in the software world, customer success. It's too easy to get too far removed from your customer really quickly, especially once you start seeing some success. And I think founders like you have, I think, latterly, especially, it has become more common for founders to try to keep their finger on the pulse of the customer experience. And I think that is one of the tools in the tool bag of success of extremely successful entrepreneurs. Longer that they can stay close to the customer, the more successful they tend to be. At least that's what I've witnessed over the last 25 years.
100%.
And I think what you said resonated with me, which is it creates a culture of empathy in the business that starts from the top down, because it's really difficult for you to have empathy for your customers if you don't actually
I love
know
it. You're
what they're
absolutely right.
going through.
Absolutely right. It's a change that we've been doing, and you're absolutely right. Lead with empathy.
Yeah, and you have operationalized empathy, and I think that's what a lot of software vendors really struggle with is how do we operationalize empathy and how do we bring it into our core DNA so that we actually infuse that throughout the whole business. But I think, leading from the top with empathy, it has that trickle down effect in the business, and the culture comes down from above. And I think you've done that really
Thank
well.
you.
Now, what I also like is the fact that you've never shied away from the hard decisions. And by that, you obviously at some point came to the realization we need to not just be a UGC platform. We need to be a more full spectrum marketing and customer retention platform. We need to get into loyalty. We need to do more in the platform other than just ratings and reviews. And obviously, famously in 2018, you guys acquired Swell, which was pretty damn well known from a name recognition standpoint in the market for their rewards platform. You acquired SMS Bump, Coho AI, which is, I think, is your most recent
Yeah.
acquisition. But what I also like is that you haven't shied away from admitting when you made a mistake and being willing to change course when you recognize that mistake. And I think email is chief among those. You guys came out with an email platform to become more like a competitor to perhaps a Klaviyo, or at least be competitive with an out-of-the-box Shopify email platform, for example, so that you can integrate all of those components together in one seamless stack. But very recently, you decided, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We realize we cannot. It is, at least as an outsider, and again, I'll wait for you to correct me here. As an outsider, it seemed like maybe you realized this is too much of a distraction from our core business, and we can't necessarily win here. So if we can't be sure we can win here, we need to stop doing that. So talk me through the very difficult decision to announce a new platform feature with big fanfare, massive marketing push, lots of customers take this on, and then you decide to pull the pin after,
Yeah.
what was it,
Probably one of the
a year and
toughest
a half or something?
decisions. Yeah. So one of the toughest decisions we did, I can tell you first, and yes, basically our thesis was we want to get to a world where it integrated together, where all the consumer experiences work like seamlessly. And then what happens is, like everything, we we do it with our heart, right? With our passion, we go all in. We don't play not to lose, we play to win. And then time passes by and you understand, A, that you're not able to execute as you thought you're going to execute on product. You start seeing customer feedback. You start seeing your own experience with the platform. And then it's okay, so what do we do? And there are a few things you can do. You, you can keep trying. And if you think you can, B, you can make the hard decision of change, or you can just try to maneuver around it. And I think in YOTPO, what I love about the culture, on one end, we are humble enough and have the humility to say, we got it wrong. We thought we could execute on that. We couldn't. We got it wrong. And second, we have the courage enough to change. Because I can tell you, I'm at least in this company, I want to do things in its fullness, not, again, sorry for a better word, like half-assed.
Yeah, you want to dabble.
Yes, exactly. And I want to have the best products. I want to win. I want to win in a sense, not like to beat competition. I think it's like a big enough market. For me, winning is, I want to make sure we keep adding value to like brands. And we weren't able to catch up. And that's one thing that was happening. And the other thing that's happening is actually AI is really changing a lot. And I think agentic commerce is a real thing. And I think I want to, at least as an engineer, I want to build the products of tomorrow. And reviews is really changing. How users are writing reviews, how users are reading reviews. Discoverability and LLMs is becoming like really top of mind. And we think we can really help there with brands. We're investing heavily in there. And that's where we think we can add more value to brands. We think in email and in SMS now, you have like phenomenal platform. You have like Tentive, you have Klaviyo, you have Postscript, you have Braze, you have OmniSend, like really MailChimp. There are actually a lot of players out there that will probably do a better job than what we could have done. And we're going to go and focus our energy, our money, our talent in other places where we think we can add more value.
I think what this to me is such a valuable lesson that even people that are at the top of their game, from an entrepreneurial perspective, They don't always get it right. The reality is that if you're too paranoid about getting things wrong, you'll never try anything new. You'll never take a risk. You'll never push. You'll never expand. You'll stay in your little box. I
I
remember
can tell you we're about to launch a product that's so crazy that some people will think we're insane. And there's another one that I hope we're going to launch next year that's also not obvious, let's say.
okay,
But this is why we live, right? This is why I'm an entrepreneur. And
yes,
we try things, we fail, we try bigger, we succeed, we try again bigger, we fail bigger. And I think, by the way, I take a lot of inspiration. Look at Shopify and deliver, like a great example.
unbelievable.
What a bet. What a bet. And
Yes.
I think it's like a phenomenal bet to a company their size, because as you get bigger, you need to take bigger and bigger bets.
What about Meta? And I mean, look at the multi-billion-dollar bets that
Yes.
they have made, and they doubled down. I think they put something like almost $20 billion into the metaverse and changed their name and their branding and everything. And now it's all about AI and
Yes.
no talk about the metaverse. So I think you're absolutely right. The bigger you get, the in order to move the revenue needle substantially in your business, if you're already at scale, the bigger the bets you have to make. Otherwise, it just doesn't have a big enough impact. It's just like Amazon, full stop. They have to take bigger and bigger bets, and they have to go after
Yeah.
bigger and bigger categories in the market, because otherwise, even if they win in a given category, if the category isn't big enough, it doesn't make big enough
Exactly.
impact to the bottom line to move the share price.
And
And
I
they,
think humility is underrated. That
yes,
founders, like, we need to be humble. We are more lucky. There's a great story by Simon Sinek. I'll tell you that in a second. But I think a lot of founders, you start, definitely VC money gets a lot of people confused. You become bigger, you become successful, and then you think, okay, yeah, I'm that smart. No, you're not that smart. You're lucky. And we are
yeah,
more lucky than smart. In 90% of time, there's a great story by Simon Sinek that talks about the plastic cup. I don't know if you heard it about.
no,
So go check it out. He tells it much better than me. He's a great storyteller. But eventually, like, none of us is like smarter. One, you need to work really hard. You need to like really care about customers, about your team. And if you do that, luck will come.
yeah. What's that saying? The harder I work, the luckier I seem to become.
Yeah.
And
There's a good
it's just,
joke that tells that Steve Jobs, the reporter used to ask him while he was, what's your secret? What was secret? He wasn't willing to tell. And then before he died, he gathered like a group of his closest 5 reporters and tell them like, ask anything you want to ask. And then one of them asked him, so what was your secret? And he said, I had in life a 90% luck, 10% brain. And then someone asked, so what do you wish for yourself in the next life? He said 100% luck. And I think that's, yes, luck is a huge factor of everything.
I think also there's another saying about luck, that luck, it can be defined as the point at which hard work meets opportunity. And I think, that there's lots of sayings around luck. And I think in many cases we make our own luck because we have to. And we have to keep trying. We have to keep trying. We have to keep pushing. And I think that a lot of
Like
entrepreneurs
I failed more times than you succeeded. That's the saying. Yes, I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, and there's that crazy statistic about Michael Jordan where he lists his 20 failures or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So you look at Michael Jordan, you say he's the best basketball player of all time. He says, look, I've been trusted X many times to take the winning shot and lost us the game. And his stats are just wild.
And
How
also
he
look at
basically
Elon.
said,
Elon, for me,
yeah,
like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't like, and it's not my cup of tea in many things. But look how time and time again he's putting himself out there, be willing to look like a fool, and he has everything to lose, right?
yeah,
And that's for me like a huge inspiration of entrepreneurship. Yeah. So he got something wrong. He fucked up. He failed. Happens.
yeah.
You need to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I remember the Walter Isaacson. I listened to the podcast that Walter Isaacson did with, I forget who he was interviewed by, but when he wrote his book about Elon Musk, he was talking about the fact that he remembers a specific instance when he was following Elon Musk around the factory floor, and they had automated a portion of the line that he just by looking at it, he said, okay, this, you would automatically think that this is the most efficient way to do this thing, but actually he could see that human beings would be better for this one specific thing than the robot they had there. So what he did, he literally cut a hole in the wall next to where the robot was sitting. He dragged the robot out through the door, literally just the moment he saw it. He didn't wait. He didn't talk to his engineers. He didn't ask a bunch of questions. He didn't have a board meeting about it. He literally cut a hole in the side of the building where this factory was. He literally dragged the robot out of the side of the factory, set up some tables for humans to do that function instead, rejiggered the line. And I found it so interesting that even the vaunted Elon Musk, who basically designed those assembly lines himself anyway, he was willing to admit, well, even I screwed up here. We can do this better without automation than we can with automation. So I'm going to immediately make that change right here, right now. I'm not going to wait for approval from anybody else. We're going to make that change. And I think that, to me, really cements, because a lot of people don't think he's got humility at all. And I think he's actually got tremendous humility in a lot of the ways he's willing to pivot on a dime. That, to me, people that don't have humility are not willing to.
Bezos has a great sentence that the best executives on Amazon change their mind decisively. To conviction, go all in, but be very humble. But if the reality or the feedback loop showing you something differently, adapt, change, again, decisively. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Wow. And that's so hard to maintain, that culture of willing to take risks, because it becomes, at some point of scale, it becomes easier to not take, or at least it feels like it's easier to not take risks. But the reality is, I guess you'd rather be disrupted from within than from without, right?
100%. No, and I think that's like, why do we do what we do? What, to keep our status? I don't know. I try not to play status games or to play money games. It's really about, for me at least, working with great people, innovating, adding value to customers. And that's like my, I don't know, North Star.
Yes. And this conversation would never be complete without bringing in, at least briefly, the topic of AI, right? The reality is that it's changing the world very quickly. In some respects, it's changing it faster than I thought. In some respects, it's maybe changing it slower than I thought. I'm building apps myself in Lovable now, because I'm a very technical non-developer, and I'm loving the vibe coding platforms. I'm loving the fact that I can rapidly prototype an idea that I have in my head one night, and then I can literally get it rapidly prototyped myself with no external development help within 2 weeks. Like, I love that. Now, that's obviously not going to be beautiful code, and it's obviously not going to be necessarily production ready, or at least scale ready. And I realize that, but I get the sense that we are very soon going to unleash a new volume of software in the world that is absolutely unprecedented, because there will be thousands and thousands of people out there like me that are very technical, but they are not coders. And I've had ideas for years of things that I'd like to see in the world, but the cost and the risk of just trying something was so high. Even if I went and got a development team in India or offshore or something like that, the time to get that into a pre-production or a prototype, rapid prototype stage, it might take me 3 months and 10 grand to get it to a rapid prototype stage in the old model. But in this new model, for like less than $1,000 and 2 to 4 weeks time, I can rapidly prototype a new idea I have in my head, and I can get it down. And then if it wins, if it looks like it has product market fit, or it looks like it's useful, then I can hire a proper software engineer, and I can then scale it properly from there, right? And I can bring that code base in-house, and I can host it myself and all that sort of stuff. But I get the sense that this is one of the areas of AI that is going to completely disrupt the market, because I think it serves two functions. One, we're going to see a lot more software in the world. Two, we are going to see a cap kind of put on some of the SaaS platforms out there in terms of the price rises they can bring to the market. Because, for example, I was, for the last year, I was using HeyGen to translate my podcast videos into Spanish. And I only signed up with them once they went unlimited, okay? Because pre-unlimited, it was going to cost me like 10 grand a year or 15 grand a year to do enough translations to translate all my podcast episodes. So they went unlimited, and I signed up immediately. I was literally one of their first subscribers on unlimited when they sent the email out. Then they've decided now, this year, as of this renewal date, they're going to go credit-based and not unlimited again. And so it was just looking at the number of credits, it's going to go back to costing me tens of thousands of dollars a year again. So I didn't renew my subscription. But what I know I can do internally is I can build, using 11 Labs and a couple of other platforms, I can build something that's good enough. It's maybe not as good as HeyGen, but it's good enough, and it's going to cost me a fraction, even of the unlimited cost. It's going to cost me a fraction of that to translate all of my videos moving forward using my own internal app that I built on Lovable. Now, that to me is so exciting that this now all of a sudden we can't be held hostage anymore by SaaS vendors who the zeros of the world that when they make $1 billion acquisition, then they have to all of a sudden make that money back. So they jack up their subscription cost by 25% the next year. It's a lot of situations where these SaaS vendors feel like they've got you locked in. But I think vibe coding unlocks a lot of things that we can't even predict yet.
Yeah, first, huge believer in what you said. I think the barrier of software is going down. At first, it seems that yes, for SMBs or solopreneurs, I think software there is becoming fully commoditized. If I'm starting my SMB today or my own business, yes, there's barely amount of vendors I need to happen. On the enterprise, a bit different. I'm not saying it yet. I think there
Yes.
you have like, it can't be good enough. It has to be
Yes.
great. So
Yes.
that's a bit different, I'll say, but definitely all software for SMBs are about to get massively disrupted, 100% aligned. I think in commerce, there's many things that are happening. One is on the operation, I can tell YOTPO as a company, like the lines of code reading by AI is growing exponentially. We're now moving to how designer through Figma Make and a bunch of other stuff can not finish with Figma file, but finish with a working code, front-end
UI. Yeah.
code, UI that's actually working. And agentic commerce, changing
Yes.
the consumer behavior. So I'm a believer that AI is still under hype and we don't fully understand the full potential of the change. But as most things, people usually like overestimate short-term trend and underestimate long-term trend.
Completely
So
agree.
yes, certain things might take longer. Autonomous vehicles, right? Takes like everyone thought 2025 will be driving through robots, but eventually it will be much more impactful on our life.
Yes.
So I actually think it's a great thing for entrepreneurship because many people like yourself can actually now have more businesses, more profitable businesses. It's an extremely exciting world. I think it's a problem for people that work in a job that they don't find their passion and creativity, because that
Yes.
means that you are going to be replaced or half replaced or semi-replaced, and even not by AI, but someone that leverages AI in
Yes.
a more meaningful way. And yes, I think we are entering, like we are very lucky to live and lead businesses when it's this.
Yeah, it's interesting because in my last 25 years, I've seen fads, what I thought maybe would start out as a fad, turn into a trend that then turned into a complete revolution in our industry. Mobile, famously, well, I'm old enough that I remember the pre-internet days, the coming of the internet, the mainstreaming, and then what I call the mainlining of the internet. And then I saw the next massive revolution that came to our industry was this thing. And I remember the Nokia WAP browser, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. I remember I had a friend that was pretty wealthy when I was younger, and he always had the latest and greatest cell phones. And so he had the first Nokia cell phone that had the WAP browser. It was an LCD screen, but it was a WAP
Yeah,
browser. And he showed this thing to me for the very first time. And I thought, okay, this isn't in and of itself right here, right now. This version of this is not going to transform our industry, but just one or two iterations better than this, and this will change everything forever about our industry. And then, of course, then the iPhone
yeah,
3G came out, and the whole world changed. Obviously,
yeah. I think
we
today in
had
AI we are like in the mobile era, but the iPhone haven't arrived yet, and it's gonna arrive.
yes, I couldn't agree more. And I see my pattern recognition, my spidey senses are tingling, and I'm looking at this, and I'm staying just as curious and open-minded
Amazing.
about AI as I tried to be about every major technical revolution that has come before it. And I think it truly is going to turn out to be the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah,
It is going
100%.
to, over the long term, it is going to have such a dramatic impact on every single facet of our lives that we can't even imagine what that looks like yet.
100%.
And I agree with you. I think that the entrepreneurs that stay curious, the entrepreneurs that try to use AI for good, the entrepreneurs that are trying to shape the direction that AI goes, the entrepreneurs that leverage this as fully and as best as they possibly can and adapt as quickly as they possibly can, these are the ones that are going to win. And the people that bury their head in the sand about it and don't stay curious about it, like 9 months ago, because I use the Brave browser, and I installed a plugin that redirects all my Omnibox queries to ChatGPT. Because I said, look, I got to learn this. And it means I can't have one foot in the regular search engine camp
Yes.
and one foot in the answer engine camp. I got to cut cold turkey. I got to go all in on this. And I got to try to look at all the ways I can use AI, not just in my business, but in my
100%.
personal life.
100%.
And I think if you keep that level of curiosity, it will be difficult for the technology to pass you by.
100% agree. Stay curious. The best advice you can give kids today. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, this has been fascinating. I know you were talking about a couple of things that you guys are working on, secret squirrel stuff inside the business. But to the extent that you can and are willing to share, what is high on your priority list? If we looked out 6, 12, 18 months from now,
Yeah.
what is high on your priority list to deliver or to achieve inside YOTPO? Or are there things that your customers are asking you for that you don't do yet today that you say, we don't do it today, but in 6, 12, 18 months, we will be doing this thing? What are you able to share?
Yes. So first, we are definitely going much more towards omni-channel commerce. So you're going to see
Okay.
us doing more things offline, online, retail, direct, and think about that omni-channel commerce in a much more holistic way, both in loyalty and in reviews. Second thing is internally very focused on implementing AI and transforming YOTPO to an AI first to deliver better velocity, to have like much more faster and efficient machine. Number three is definitely like agentic commerce. Is maybe the area I
Yes.
spend the most time on. How we can help brands and carry them towards the world where not all of commerce is happening by humans. Some of it is happening by agents. What does it mean on the storefront? What does it mean outside of the storefront? That's a topic I spend a lot of time on because I think this is the next big value creation for commerce. So you should definitely see YOTPO help carry brands to an AI first or to agentic commerce universe.
Wow. Very exciting. My mind goes in a million different directions based on what you just said. And I can only imagine what's coming next. So we'll definitely keep a finger on the pulse of that. B2B. Now, you guys have famously been retail focused. You've been famously retail omni-channel focused for pretty much the whole of YOTPO's existence. As someone who has doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on B2B over the last 7 years in my career and sees the massive opportunity in B2B to
Yeah, maybe we need to
automate.
spend time together on B2B. I would love to.
Yeah, yeah, I was just going to ask, is there anything on the B2B horizon that for manufacturers and distributors that you say, look, I think there's some areas here we can really help with and that we haven't really focused on
Yeah,
before? Has it?
loyalty. I think loyalty is B2B loyalty is an area I'm curious about a lot. And really, I would love to schedule time with our VP strategy. We do spend time on it. We're not sure yet how exactly to crack it, but I think B2B in loyalty is very exciting.
It's massively exciting to me too. And the great thing is that in B2B, the B2B world, the relationship part of that industry builds loyalty almost inherently as part of those relationships, and how we can look to enhance
And I'm
that
that.
loyalty,
Right.
enhance and extend that loyalty. I think there's lots of opportunity there. So I look forward to having that
Yes. We'd love
conversation.
to.
Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, and I super appreciate your time, this is the great opportunity I have with every podcast episode where I get to turn the microphone over to my guest. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. Mr. Tomer TAGRIN from YOTPO, what is your question for me today?
Yes. I'm really curious. What do you think? How do I say that? If you were me, what would you be doing that we're not doing?
Look, that's such a loaded but awesome question. It's hard because, as an outsider who hasn't ever even talked to you inside your business before, it's hard to know what already has momentum inside the business. And therefore, once you achieve a certain level of momentum, it becomes like turning the Titanic. So it's very difficult to change direction once you've got momentum going in a certain direction. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if you can stay humble enough to realize that what got us from 0 to 1 or 0 to 10 or whatever number range you want to use is probably not the thing that's going to get us to 10 to 100 in the next 24 months, for
Yeah.
example. And I think if you can really focus on, I'm trying to do this in my own business, so I can only say and only recommend what I'm trying to do, which is I'm trying to think of all the ways, if I was to come into the market today instead of 5 years ago, and I saw someone like me in the market and I was trying to disrupt them and I was trying to disrupt their business model, what would I be doing now with no legacy in my business at all? What would I be doing that I'm not doing? And I think if we can try to, and it's hard to legitimately change your mindset to imagine a realistic world where you're a startup again. And if we had it to do
Yes.
all over again and we didn't have all the staff we have, and if we didn't have the payroll to make, and we didn't have the customers to support, if we were going to truly revolutionize our business, what would that look like? And I think if we can keep that level of humility and that level of curiosity, then I think we stand a good chance of surviving and thriving through the coming of the AI age and the mainlining and the mainstreaming of the AI age. Because look, it's wild. I talk to people of all ages. I'm 50 now, and I talk to people, my wife's quite a bit younger than me. So I speak to people in business and in my personal life of all ages. And the rate at which AI is genuinely starting to impact people's lives is pretty wild. Like,
I
it's pretty
agree.
wild. And I think it's difficult, even those of us that have seen massive trends emerge in our industry before, it's hard to predict with any level of accuracy what this looks like in the next 12, 24, 36 months. And so I think we're just going to have to become super agile, super nimble. We're going to have to shoot sacred cows faster than ever before in the history of business. And that is just such a hard thing to do.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I really appreciate your time. Now, I will drop a link to your LinkedIn profile. I will drop a link, obviously, to your website in the show notes. Other than that, if people want to reach out to you and have a great conversation about customer loyalty and just about anything to do with commerce, what's the best way to reach out and get a hold of you?
Yeah, shoot me a LinkedIn DM. I'll get to it.
I love it. And that's the way we were able to connect
Yes.
to hook this up. So I can vouch for the fact that you do actually respond to your own
Yes.
DMs. I super appreciate your time,
And
Tomer.
thank you.
I
This was
wish you
great. Thank you. Thank you. I really had fun.
Me too. I wish you every success, continuing success with YOTPO, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.